Hi, I'm Russ Fadel. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Augmentir. Today, I'm going to talk about what the promise of an AI-based connected worker platform can offer in the COVID-19 era. When we think about it today, manufacturing and service companies and our work processes are predicated on two specific items. One is that all things can be handled face-to-face. So if you're in a manufacturing facility and you have a problem, the general way to solve it is to call a more senior person over and ask them questions. Or if you're in a service company and a piece of equipment is down in the field, you immediately take your subject matter experts, get them on an airplane and fly them to the site, with people having many frequent flyer miles and are real road warriors. The second thing we believe is that we'll have a relatively stable workforce. The stability depends just on two factors: what industry you're in and the current unemployment rate. In the COVID-19 era, all of that has changed. And I would also suggest that once we get through the worst of the pandemic, there's not going to be the same normal, there's going to be a new normal. So social distancing, which is a requirement right now, I believe will continue in the post-COVID era. Limited travel or travel disruptions will also continue well past the end of the pandemic. And workforce disruptions, which is something we never planned for, but always had to deal with, will now be something we'll have to plan for in the future. So I'd like to talk about how Augmentir is helping solve these problems. And to start with, I'd like to introduce the founders of the business. So Augmentir was founded by three guys. The first is Phil Hubert, shown in the bottom left of the screen. Phil has a pretty storied history in manufacturing software. He helped co-found Wonderware in 1987. Wonderware went on to go public in 94, and today is the leading factory floor software company in the world. About 10 years after Phil founded Wonderware, I co-founded a company called Lighthammer Software, which really simplified the integration of factory operations with the enterprise layer. We were acquired by SAP in 2005, and today it's the #1 manufacturing integration intelligence platform in the world, found in more than 90% of all SAP manufacturing implementations. And then finally, in about 2009, I co-founded ThingWorx, the first industrial Internet of Things platform company. About a year and a half afterwards, after founding the business, I met up with Phil Hubert and his business partner, Lawrence Fan, on the right. We acquired their small business, and they became part of the exec team at ThingWorx. We ran ThingWorx until 2014, when we were acquired by PTC. And today, ThingWorx is recognized by Gartner as the leading industrial IoT platform in the market. So we've got a pretty significant history in bringing transformative software into the manufacturing and service space. Phil, Lawrence, and I got together in late 2017 and said we believe now that technology had come to the point where we could build a connected worker platform that, based on AI, could help improve the quality, safety, and productivity of frontline workforces. So we chose, of course, to target workers that we knew well from our prior experience: workers in manufacturing, production, energy utilities, maintenance, and service. And use cases such as setup changeover, assembly, audit QA, operator care, installation maintenance, service and repair. And we also have a ubiquitous set of functionality, which we call a remote assist, which is used to provide virtual guidance and support to workers in the field from an expert someplace remote, either headquarters or at an OEM. It's an important feature today as we need social distancing and travel interruptions. So important, we made an offer about a month and a half ago to allow companies to use our remote assist software free through the end of 2020. If you're interested in that, please go to augmentir.com and you can get the specifics of our offer. So the problems we set out to solve when we founded Augmentir, we really saw three major issues to improving the frontline workforce. The well-known skills gap, which is exacerbated used to be by a tight labor market and the changing nature of work, but even more so now in the COVID era, where you have an uncertain set of workers depending on who can make it to work that day. The second major problem is the loss of tribal knowledge. About 40% of the industrial technical workforce is scheduled to retire in the next 5 to 7 years. And with them will be this huge volume of tribal knowledge that's very difficult to take out of a person's head and convert into a corporate asset. And then finally, the third area we saw of challenge and opportunity is how do you provide the data and the tools to allow a company to apply continuous improvement techniques to a frontline workforce. So according to the Manufacturing Institute, manufacturers were planning to spend about $26 billion in 2020 alone just on trying to solve these problems. So when we looked into the market, we said, well, how do we support frontline workers today? And it's pretty clear, tribal knowledge from colleagues, the face-to-face interaction, face-to-face classroom training, instructions or supporting documentation, primarily in paper, or as you go up the food chain in companies, those paper instructions have been converted to PDFs on class. And when you think about the challenges today, the tribal knowledge problem, the skills gap problem, and the continuous improvement problem, it's clear that this way of supporting workers is just not up to the task. So when we looked at it, we became completely convinced that first and foremost, this was an artificial intelligence problem. Humans generate relatively noisy data sets, and to help improve those outcomes, you have to be able to recognize patterns in that noisy data. Exactly perfect for AI. So our vision was we could use AI to provide each individual worker exactly what he or she needs, when they need it, in the form they need it, to help intelligently close the skills gap at the moment of need. These are centered around a set of personalized instructions where at any time within their workflow, they can contact a human expert for support. They can access inline training, much of which had been done in the classroom in the past, or get support from an AI support bot. So what we did is we built an artificial intelligence-based platform with two core functions. First, the ability to author and execute augmented guided procedures, which help each worker perform safely, on quality, and at their highest possible productivity. And also, associated with that, an integrated set of remote expert or remote assist capability, which allows frontline workers to immediately access the correct expert of choice to help them solve their problems immediately and get on with their work. Now, you can find each of these functions in various products in the market. That's not what makes us unique. What makes Augmentir unique is that we built it on an AI platform, and we use AI to solve the three challenges I spoke about before. First, we use AI to cleanse the high granularity job data that comes back from the frontline workforce and to identify opportunities, the largest capturable opportunities across your entire workforce using AI pattern recognition techniques. So we support your continuous improvement team in that manner. Two, as we collect all of this data and cleanse it, we start to learn a great deal about each worker's proficiency on each task that they do. So it allows us to intelligently provide different levels of guidance and support to close skills gaps that are specific to the worker that we're working with at the time. So we intelligently close skills gap based on workers' proficiency. And the third thing we do is we use a very well-known AI bot infrastructure to sit alongside expert worker sessions to accumulate this tribal knowledge and subject matter expertise over time so that you can start to move this expertise, which is in the heads of your most experienced workers, and start to move it into a digital asset that's a scalable corporate asset. So really, all in all, what we do is we enable the following. Through augmented guided procedures, we enable independent work. So each worker, regardless of their proficiency, has all the information and support they need to complete their job on their own as frequently as possible. Very important in the social distancing era that we live in today. The second thing we do is we use AI to match the level of instruction and guidance and support to the skill set and proficiency of each worker every time they do a job. So in this case, we show the example of a learner and a proficient worker doing a task. In the case of the learner, he or she might not have done this task frequently. It's a complex task. So there's more instruction up front. In the middle of the repair procedure, a supervisor is notified and they come over to sign off that the work's been done correctly. Now, your more proficient worker, his instructions are going to be more like a checklist because he understands that as having done it numerous times before. So again, match the level of instruction to the proficiency of the worker to instant skill your workforce. The third area is to embed virtual support as an integral part of the tools that your frontline workers have. So anytime a worker or anyone within your production or service environment needs questions, they can be intelligently connected to the person in or outside your organization that can help answer the question immediately. And this, over time, can more frequently become an AI chatbot that has accumulated a lot of this subject matter expert knowledge. And finally, not finally, but in the fourth area, you can also use new connected worker platforms like Augmentir with any one of a number of industrial smart glasses. So in those applications where hands-free operation provides a significant productivity improvement, you can use the same tool set, the same instructions to allow your workers to work hands-free. And finally, we use AI to uncover the true opportunities in your business. In the case we're showing here is our productivity opportunity screen. We're separating raw opportunity, which is the amount of time you could capture on everything you service or build, from true opportunity, which is the AI cleansed data. So in this case, this is the manufacturer. This is a list of the things they do. That's why it's blacked out. They make perhaps 300 products, so the list is 300 long. And if you look at the top three things we proposed to them, the top one has 98 hours of true opportunity, and we've said this is the one you should focus on most. And it only has 107 hours of raw. But if we go down just one level, you can see that the second item, which only has 66 hours of true opportunity, has 181 hours of raw. So if you were working off raw data, you'd certainly be focusing on the second item in the list first, the third item in the list second, and finally the first item in the list. So completely backwards of the way you should do it. A real value for AI for your continuous improvement teams. So we look forward, and we think the COVID-19 era will really be the era of connected workers, where we're providing tools to these workers so they can work more independently. They can get assistance that's always available remotely. And then AI helps instant skill each of your workers so that with a wildly varying workforce, you continue to deliver quality jobs productively and safely. So, in summary, manufacturing and service will never be the same. Digitization of the frontline workforce is necessary today. And at Augmentir, we make it easy. Free trial, simple pilots. Come visit us at augmentir.com. Thank you. I'll answer any questions you have at this point. So, in summary, manufacturing digitization of the frontline workforce is necessary today. And at Augmentir, we make it easy. Free trial, simple pilots. Come visit us at augmentir.com. Thank you. I'll answer any questions you have at this point.
Okay.
So, in summary, manufacturing.
All right, are we good?
Sorry, a few minor. And at Augmentir, we make it easy.
All right. I don't know. We have a little technical problem. Sorry for that, Russ. Appreciate your speech. It's really interesting stuff. We don't have a ton of time for questions, but one of the questions that I thought of as you were going through this, when we're talking about AI and we're talking about digitizing the workforce, one of the things that companies often talk about is privacy and security. As we start to collect this data and understand how it's being used, how do you guys think about privacy and security, both from a corporate standpoint and from the individual worker themselves?
That's a great question. We founded the company in mid-2017, and so we were square in the GDPR era. So from day one, we thought, wanting to be a global company, that there's no question that we were going to have to put, privacy, personal data first and foremost in the product. We also, the three founders live in California, which has even more, rigid or more aggressive privacy laws on the books. So so we think about detaching any personally identifying data from the underlying data. There's only a single point where they're connected, and we live throughout the entire token. So if a person were to leave a company and say, I no longer want my data to be part of this data set, we can disconnect it. So there's really no way to link the data that we maintain in any relationship to any one individual. And the second thing is the data in our system is really owned by our customers, not by us.
Well, great. I apologize. I'm having a few technical difficulties. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. Russ, really appreciate your time and your perspective. And given that you're right here in our backyard, we'll have to get together after all the chaos closes. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your talk.
Great. Thank you.